Well, hello, I'm Charlotte Strimler, and welcome to the show. I just want to take an honest, balanced look at the both positive and the concerns surrounding the data center that is coming to Lawrenceburg and what it means for our community. If you know me, you know I'm not lining my pockets, and I'm sure my guests aren't either, but we're going to talk about it. And I am from Lawrenceburg, born, raised. I live here, I work here, and I don't like corruption. And I talk about it quite a bit. So if you know me, I'm not very soft about it either. And so I really like to get to the truth. And so you won't find me sugarcoating things very easily. And so, actually, probably not at all. But in the end, what you hear from us is just going to be facts. Facts,
Facts.
facts. It's not to make you love a data center, it's not going to make you hate a data center. But what we just want to make you understand is information. Um, and so, what you come to believe ultimately is just going to be about what you want to believe. So I'd love to introduce my guest. Ryan Egly is the president and CEO of the Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce. Ryan. And Vic Pusser, who is the CEO and president,
Just see you.
just CEO of Lawrenceburg Utility Systems. And Ryan, just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, first off, thank you for having us, Charlotte. It means a lot. And thank you for everyone tuning in and listening today. I think it's a great opportunity to have some education and maybe
Yes.
even a bigger conversation about development in our community. Um, like Charlotte said, my name is Ryan. I've been at the chamber now working on a full-time basis. This is my 11th year. Hard to think about. I've served as the lead role there since July of 2019, and our Chamber of Commerce is designed to promote economic development for the entire county. That means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and so sometimes that's new manufacturing operations, sometimes that's grants, sometimes that's tourism and small business and entrepreneurship. But we're very proud to represent 500 businesses that call themselves chamber members. They are supported by 7 professional staff today. And it's just such a joy to do this work on behalf of Lawrence County. We have the chance to partner with people like Vic at Lawrenceburg Utility Systems and our elected leadership to help make sure that we're all singing the same song. We're very pro-business, pro-growth, and again, the media. Charlotte, you're a huge part of that as well. So thank you for your partnership and of
Yeah.
course your membership of the
I should
chamber.
say
So
I'm a chamber member.
absolutely, but yeah, that's a little bit about me. That's my business. Now, personally, born raised like you, right here in Lawrenceburg, and just love it here. So.
Well, and your mother was my, it's going to tell my age here, was my English teacher when she was pregnant with you.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to have a funny haha about that.
Yep.
But who is it? I'm just going to put this out there.
Sure.
Who's in charge? Who do you answer to?
Sure. So I have a board of directors.
Okay.
They're made up of all the mayors of the county, so that includes the county executive and then the mayors of all the cities. So the city of Lawrenceburg, city of Loretto, city of St. Joe, city of Etheridge. I have 2 ex officio members that are not elected, but by virtue of their position, they're on my board. That does include Vic at Lawrenceburg Utility Systems and Mr. Michael Atkins, the director of schools,
Okay.
and then Mr. Steve Hill. So there's actually 3 ex officio. My apologies. He's the chairman of the Joint Economic and Community Development Board of Lawrence County, which is a public board. Um, Turnaround, we also have the private sector representation that fluctuates between 11 and 13 members that are just business leaders. And so if anyone's interested in seeing the full list of our board on our website, updated. And so, those are my bosses. Those are the people that hire me. Important to note, though, our chamber actually manages some public boards. So we
Okay.
manage the joint board and then the Lawrence County Economic Development Corporation, which is the County Industrial Development Board. And then we work very closely with other IDBs in the county, namely the City of Lawrenceburg IDB and the Loretto IDB. Every city has one.
Okay. So if we want to get you in trouble, we go talk to all those people.
Sure.
I'm just kidding. We don't want to get you in trouble.
Sure.
I'm just saying everybody answers to somebody.
That's right.
So you're not out here just making decisions
Right.
by yourself.
Right.
All right. Yeah, Vic, you're up. All right, Vic.
So first of all, thanks for having us, Charlotte. So, like Charlotte said, I'm Vic Pusser. I'm the CEO of Lawrenceburg Utility Systems. Born and raised in Lawrenceburg, lived here all my life. Graduated Lawrence County High School, went to Tennessee Tech University, got a civil engineering degree. So I'm a licensed professional engineer in Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia. Did consulting engineering for about 10 years before I came back home, so I have a background in geotechnical materials testing, environmental. Came to work at Lawrenceburg Utility Systems in 2005 as a gas water sewer engineer. Built a wastewater treatment plant, ran water sewer for a while, became the manager in 2007. So I've been the CEO at Lawrenceburg Utility Systems since 2007. We serve the whole county with electricity. We serve about 8,000 customers for water, 7,000 gas, 6,000 wastewater. So we like to say we're a one-stop shop. So we provide the utilities for the project that we're going to be discussing today.
All right. Well, first of all, when you say data center, you know, that's something you never think about, at least coming into Lawrenceburg, unless something like this happens.
Sure.
Unless, you hear about a data center. And if you go Google one, which
A lot of people have lately.
Mm-hmm.
you don't even know what a data center is.
Yep.
And people are like, well, I don't use AI. I don't use a data center.
Sure.
We don't want a data center. But if you shop on Amazon, if you play video games and store them in the cloud, if you use Google, you are using information stored on a data center. And data centers, even though there are so many of them, it's not a one for all,
Right.
fits all.
Yep.
Data centers are, of course, popping up everywhere because people consume more information today than they ever have in history. And so, Ryan, tell us a little bit about this data center that is coming to Lawrenceburg. How many acres it's on?
Yep.
How big is it going to be? So just the general information about this data center.
Well, if it's okay, I'd like to go back to the beginning of this project in particular because it was different than most of the other industrial development or
Okay,
data projects that we've
absolutely.
seen. So important to note that we've been watching data centers develop in the Tennessee Valley region for the better part of a decade.
Okay.
A very large Meta data center in Gallatin, very large one down in I think Scottsboro, Alabama. Look at what Google's doing in Clarksville. Look what they're doing in Huntsville with their data centers there. And those are massive facilities, millions of square feet. And I don't know, Vic, probably for 10 years, we've kind of said, we'll entertain one if they ever came knocking. And just to be
Right.
blunt, no one's ever really come knocking. About 3 years ago, though, what we saw happening was the AI revolution and then the need for additional computing power and cloud storage. And so we started reading articles and watching the news about, hey, Northern Virginia, as an example, like I think they have more than 650 data centers right there
I
clustered.
think they have more than the rest of the country combined.
That's
do.
right. That's exactly right.
Right.
And so we saw what was happening there. And then, just talking amongst our team, we were like, I think if one comes, which it wasn't at that point, if it's when they come knocking, like, what are we okay giving away? Because something that I'm so proud of our community is we're well prepared for many types of investment. Vic has 6 substations, 6 million gallons of excess water capacity. Your sewer capacity on Industrial Park, Vic, is what, 8.5 or 9 million gallons
Right.
a day, and then we have abundant natural gas resources. And so when we're talking to manufacturers, the utilities oftentimes aren't even a question, unlike many of our competitor communities, right? When we're competing, whether it's a Murray County, which is having water issues, or
Right.
other
Well,
counties that,
so going back to
yeah,
that, when a business first approaches you, and
yes,
this is one of the things I was going to start with
sure,
as well, any business approaches you.
yep,
How do you go about deciding whether, and I know you're
yeah,
talking,
yeah,
this is how
yeah,
you go. Doesn't matter if it's a data center,
right,
doesn't matter if it's a Craig
right.
Manufacturing or a Magna. How does that process start?
Yeah, great question. So it starts in one of two ways: reactively or proactively. Reactively is the primary method by which it happens. That's because we have people working on our behalf every day, whether it's at the Tennessee Valley Authority. They have a team of target market specialists that are going to generate leads and recruiting businesses to the Valley, or there are the directors of business development at the State Department of Economic and Community Development. Every day they're out beating down the doors saying, hey, come invest in Tennessee, right? So they're helping generate the leads. And as they get those leads, part of our job is to maintain relationships with those people so that when someone does contact them, they know, hey, Lawrence County's ready. Ryan and Ben and Vic are top tier talent, and they're reliable and they know how to make a deal. And so a lot of times they'll call us and then we will respond to that. Again, that's reactive. There is a proactive methodology there as well. Which is we're going out and maybe we're beating down the doors. And so, for example, next week Ben and I will be with a whole lot of site selectors in Dallas, Texas, trying to tell them like, hey, we have land available in Lawrence County for business. We have a ready workforce. We have prepared utilities, and we are still open for business in Lawrence County. So again, there's the reactive and proactive. And there's a part of that too that I didn't mention. It's also kind of reactive, but the existing business growth, which is where we see most of our businesses growing, right? Like lumber liquidators happened because we had cabinets to go, so it was an expansion, or the recent
Right.
Craig manufacturing expansion. So but those don't get as much headlines, but they are very, very important.
Right.
So, but that, again, reactive. And so that's just being there, picking up the phone and saying, hey, we're open for business. What do you need to know to make sure that you can do the business here? And so going back to 3 years ago when we knew data centers, it wasn't if, it was when. We had to have a conversation like, okay, what is our current electrical capacity? What's our current water capacity? What are we willing to give up in lieu of maybe having to say no to a large scale employer? Because you and I both know data centers don't employ very many people.
Right.
And so we kind of had those conversations. And I kid you not, it was all in the same week. We had three data centers call us. And at that point, we knew pretty quick, like, hey, let's feel them out because we get to be picky and choosy in this scenario. Of course, think back, y'all, 10, 15 years, we just wanted jobs. We didn't care.
Right.
And this goes back, I'll get back to the data center in a second, but how do we evaluate a project, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want someone that's not only going to create jobs, but they're going to create better jobs, meaning higher paying jobs. We're also noticing that most projects are more capital intensive, meaning it takes more money to do. Well, that's really important because when I go into the schools and not a kid says, what do you do for a living? I ask them this question. I say, I do economic development. If I say the word economy, what does that mean? That's question one. And most of them say money. And then I say, what does the word develop mean? And they say build or grow. And I said, exactly. Our job is to grow money or build money in Lawrence County. So by being more capital intensive, that helps us expand the tax base, right? So with that said, we really lean into the capital investment, capital expenditure, CapEx, if you will. That's all different terminologies for the same. And then the last thing, we do look at our utility impact because we do want one, a good customer for Vic and LUS. We want them and their investment in the facilities at our industrial park. We want them to have a return on that, right? But we also want a good, reliable customer that does ultimately help the ratepayer as well. And so those are the metrics by which we evaluate a project. We respond if we want to, by the way, because it's a different time today than it was 10, 15 years
Right.
ago. And that's where we're at. But Vic, did I miss anything there before we go back to the data center? I wanted to.
Well, the key thing that I'd like to say is, once you get that RFP
Yeah.
or RFI,
Yeah.
the first question I asked Ryan was, what about their utility
Yeah.
usage? And how's that going to impact us? Because I've got a defined amount of electricity available to Lawrence County
Yep.
right now. I've got a defined amount of water that I can treat, wastewater
Yep.
that I can treat. So we look at it and see, all right, long term, how much of our capacity is it going to take down?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And are we willing to give that capacity up for X amount of jobs or X amount of
Yep.
capital outlay?
Yep.
So that's how we look at it from a utility side.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, exactly. But the data center specifically, going back to that 1 week last year, it was about 14 months ago, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 13 months ago. All of a sudden, they start calling. And the first call we got was a data center, and they led the conversation. And by the way, manufacturers do this too. They led the conversation with what will you give us from a power or land perspective, and what kind of incentives do you offer?
Okay.
And immediately we're turned off by that because we don't want a business to come in and just ask that question.
Right.
We want someone that can partner to help us grow our community together
Right.
and be good corporate
What are you
citizens.
going to give us?
That's right. So I don't mind telling you that data center in particular, I think wanted like 100 megawatts of power, if I'm not mistaken, and a couple dozen employees, huge capex, which is attractive, by the way.
Right.
Like, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't something that we kind of thought, we've just been working to develop this land. We want a large scale employer, not just a big data center.
Which, okay, so I'm gonna
Yeah,
I'm gonna these questions they have never heard. Okay, I'm just gonna put this out there because I'm just gonna take my gloves off. Which
sure,
I have been hanging out with some people lately,
sure.
different people than other people might be thinking. But I want you to explain when you brought it up. What are you going to give me?
Yeah,
Because everybody thinks that everything is a backdoor deal here,
sure.
and we give away this and give away that. I want you to explain to everyone what the TIF district is
Okay,
here in Lawrenceburg,
okay,
because I didn't know about this till recently,
okay.
and what that means to it,
Yeah,
what it means to businesses coming in.
yeah,
The TIF district.
yeah. So, if it's okay, I'll zoom out because I think I'll talk about a toolbox, right? We have different tools in our toolbox
Right.
to attract companies to town, and when we say attract companies to town, I'm really talking about getting a deal across the finish line. Is what
Right.
I'm talking about. So, for example, the primary tool, historically speaking, for cities and counties would be actually called a pilot. A pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes. And so when you hear people saying, oh, they got a tax deal, well, that's what they're talking about because we may be competing with somewhere in Kentucky or somewhere even in like Hungary, as an example. And they may be saying, hey, we're going to give you a cash grant or we're going to give you this much off of your some kind of taxes, a credit of some sort. Well, locally, we can say, hey, we are going to abate
Mm-hmm.
your property taxes and then for a term. So, for example, right now, and we talk regularly with the city council and the county commission, and we try to make sure we have a handle on what our formula is. But right now, if a business that is a large scale employer that is offering tens of $1 millions of capital investment and have wages that are high and that aren't a detriment to our utilities, the maximum deal we can give them on a pilot is a 10-year tax abatement that reduces their property taxes by 60%, up to 60%. That, so 10 years ago, it was a different time. We used to do 100% off for 20 years. So again, the deal's changing over time as the market changes, right? So that's one tool that we have in the toolbox. We also have, like you mentioned, a TIF district, and TIF stands for tax increment financing. What that means is back in 2000, I think it was 10, the city and the county got together and said, we are going to say, here's our industrial park, here's a map. We are at the city and county, we're going to freeze what we realize on property taxes. So, for example, let me think of a business in the district real fast. Fiesta Mexicana's in the district. Okay, so that business, let's say that business, and sorry, Fiesta people, if you're watching, love you guys, but let's say they pay $1,000 in property tax annually. Well, by doing a TIF district, we said, and this is 2010, okay? TIF district, the city and county says, we're only going to take $1,000 to our general fund from that TIF district for the next 20 years. And then as we grow, as things appreciate, so today, let's say they're paying $2,000. That increment, so the tax increment is going to go into a development fund to help build industrial parks or incentivize companies. Don't mind telling you, our TIF has been pretty much inactive for the last 6 or 7 years. We've used different mechanisms to close deals. We haven't done that. We have used the TIF financing for like new hotels, for example, which basically is saying, hey, this property is generating $0 to the city and the county. Let's build a $13 million hotel on it. And then guess what? They're going to be paying property taxes. Well, the city can borrow against the future revenue of that to provide as an incentive to get the land ready or help build the public infrastructure to it. Does that make sense?
It does. Now,
Yeah.
what you said, I'm
Yeah.
going to repeat back to you. You said property taxes.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
did not say personal property tax.
Oh, so personal property tax is included on the pilots. It's not regularly
Okay.
included on TIF. And so it's important to note in the data center world, you have a building and then you have all the servers and equipment inside.
Right.
And so the building costs money, right? But the real value is the personal
Right.
inside.
So are they going to, like, when do they get tax um, breaks on everything for so
Nope,
many years? No.
No,
nope. We
not
did
for
not
data
have.
centers.
Yeah, we did not have to do that.
This data center coming in does not get a bunch of tax breaks.
No,
No,
No personal property tax breaks.
nope.
nope.
So to put it into perspective, y'all will know this because your property is being reappraised as part of the reappraisal process. There's going to be a new equalized tax rate that will be adopted by all the cities and the county in June. We have an estimate of what that's going to be,
Yay.
and
Thank you.
I know.
Thank you.
Yeah. I told Brady I was not going to give him a shout out, but Brady Hutton, thank you seriously for your work in your partnership and helping what we do at the Chamber for Economic Development. But the rule of thumb right now with the new rates is that for every $10 million of commercial or industrial investment in the city of Lawrenceburg, that's going to generate $90,000 worth of new revenue in property taxes to the government. Right? Does that make sense?
Okay.
So for easy math, let's say it was 100,000 instead of 90. If we made a tax deal, all we could ever offer is say we'll give you $60,000 off a year if you come here, right? And we're still getting 40,000. We're either getting 0 or 40. But in this case, every $10 million, if it's 10,000, we're getting $100,000. And so this data center over time, and I need to get back to the story of how this originated because I think it's really important. Big data center calls and we were turned off by them, so we walked away from that deal, right? We didn't want them.
Right.
This group came to us in a different posture. They wanted to know about our community, how well prepared we were, and they said, "Hey, what would you be comfortable with us taking, and as from or as a customer?" And I'm sure Vic, you can talk to that a little bit more as
Yeah.
far as what we have
Yeah, he's got
available.
his coming.
Yeah, good.
I'm ready.
Yeah. But it was a different posture, and we said, "Hey, let's see if this can work." And they asked about land. We were pretty firm on the get go that we did not want to give them our public land that we own. That's also a tool, by the way. We can reduce the price per acre as an incentive for development, but that wasn't what we had to do here. They approached a private landowner and said, "Would you be willing to sell your land?" They said yes. 6.5 acres, to answer your question directly, is what they purchased, and they did not ask for any kind of tax deal. So from day one, this thing is a benefit already. Um, so, but again, the group was really, really good. And on top of that, they wanted to know what kind of data center is good for your community, like what works for you guys. And so this would be a cloud storage data center, not AI or anything like that. It's not a hyperscaler. It really is just backup storage for maybe some clients they have in the region. And so again, it's totally different than what you're seeing online and everyone would portray, which is why I responded online this weekend.
You responded quite a bit. Yeah. And it's a 60,000 square foot.
And that's what's cool too. That they are still looking at the scale, but yeah,
Okay.
we expect it to be somewhere in that
Is that
scale.
about what, the size of Walmart?
So 60,000 square feet. If you remember where Craig Manufacturing is before they
Mhm.
expanded, that building is 60,000 square feet. Now that building is way taller. This building would only be somewhere in the 25 to
Yeah.
28 foot tall, but about the size of Craig Manufacturing. Of course, a little bit smaller because they just added some square
Right.
footage.
All right. So that's the story of how they got here.
Yeah, and then again, we connected them with landowners, connected them with the right people at LUS, and
Well,
yeah.
and they picked a site that the infrastructure was already available.
Yeah.
You know, we had power there, we had water, we had gas, we had sewer, so it didn't require any upgrades.
Yeah.
And we had the capacity that they were looking for.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also it's not a very big residential area close by.
Right.
How many houses are
I-
adjacent to?
to the north is Magna. To the east is Memorial
It's
Gardens. To the
cemetery.
south side, additional farmland. It's bounded on the west by the railroad,
Railroad.
of course. There are some residences on the just on the other side of the railroad on Flatwoods Road. And just so you know, we've talked with them throughout the process. So yeah,
All right.
I'd say there were 4 residences within a half mile.
Okay. That's kind of what I was hearing. So Vic, where does all the water in Lawrenceburg come from?
So Lawrenceburg's blessed to have 2 water sources.
Okay.
So we take water from Shoal Creek, which
Okay.
is surface water, and we take water from Hope Springs. So we've had a spring at Hope Springs since the early 1900s. So our water plant was built when Murray came into town. So it's
Okay.
an older water plant, but it's a very good water plant. Actually, we're in the process right now of designing a new water plant. Should be breaking ground on a new multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art plant within about a year and a half.
Yeah.
But we can treat about 9 million gallons of water a day, and we get about almost 2 million gallons a day from Hope Springs. We get the rest from Shoal Creek. Right now, we're pumping, on a day like today, we're probably pumping 2.6, 2.7 million gallons a day. So we're sitting on about 6 million gallons of excess capacity a day that we can treat at our water plant.
Where's it stored?
So we treat water and we have 9 water tanks. So if you look at Walmart, that's 1.5 million gallons of water that's in the air. We have a tank as far north as Etheridge. Just received a grant building a new water tank in Etheridge, so we're going to double the size of that tank, run them as sister tanks, so we'll have double the capacity in Etheridge. Farther south we go is the college with the water tank. Out west we have Gore Road tank, and then we have Fall River tank. So we have nine water tanks, about 6 million gallons of water in the air of storage.
So right now, according to the National Weather Service and EMA Director Shelton Barnett, we are in a sort of a drought season,
Right.
which, we're still in kind of the spring, but say we get into a major series of droughts. Is that going to be any kind of issue for us?
See, I don't think so. I've been working at Lawrenceburg Utility Systems since 2005, and we've had several droughts within that time. We have never issued a conserved water. When there's surrounding areas, surrounding counties, water districts within Lawrence County issue those all the time. We have never had to issue a conserved water. We have never come close to running out of water. We're blessed. Shoal Creek is an amazing water source. Hope Springs is an amazing water source.
Yeah.
So, how much water is this data facility going to take,
Yeah.
according to their specs?
So I think when people, like today, I Googled data center. First thing that pops up
that's
at a
the-
data center is a 100 megawatt data center.
Right.
And this is a 5 megawatt data center. When people are comparing what they see online, those are data centers that are 20 times the size of what we're getting. So when you Google 100 megawatt data center, they're using 500,000 gallons of water a day. This one's going to use between 10 and 15,000 gallons of water a day. And like we just said, we've got 6 million gallons of excess capacity a day. So 15,000 gallons is not going to put a dent in our
So they
capacity.
use 15,000 gallons. Now, that's going to be to cool off their system. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, once that water goes through their system, where does it go?
Most of it gets evaporated. But what has to be discharged will actually be discharged to the Lawrenceburg Utility System sanitary sewer. So we have local limits that are approved by the state of Tennessee that fall within the state of Tennessee limits. So anything they discharge to us will have to meet those local limits. We have some industries in town now that their processed water does not meet those limits, so they have to treat it on site. They treat it on site, we sample it, they discharge to LUS. What we understand of this, they'll be able to meet those limits without any pre-treatment on site. So I have zero concern that they're going to contaminate our water system, our wastewater system in any way. And it's a closed loop system. We have things in place like a cross-connection policy, backflow preventers that would prevent any kind of contaminated water to coming into our system. They get tested yearly, and like I said, they have to meet our local limits, which are approved by the state of Tennessee.
So they cannot overload your system. If they had 5 times as much in one day, they can't send that much more to your system than what they're allowed.
No, not legally. Now, if they dumped in our system, we would know immediately. We go shut them off.
And you're going to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
You don't care how many taxes they bring.
I don't know.
They'll still pay it if they shut it down.
Yeah. If they're breaking the law, if they're not meeting the requirements that we set forth, then we have no choice but to.
So do they have to pay as much as anybody else, or for their electric service, for their water, for their
Yes,
sewer service
so
as anybody else?
So with TVA does not let you discriminate among rate classes. So me, you, and Ryan, we all pay the same. We pay the residential rate. TFT, Magnum, Modine, graphics packaging, they all pay the same commercial rate. So this data center will come in, they'll pay the same rate as every other industry we have. We do
Do
not
they
give them
use
any
more?
rates.
Will this data center use more electricity than most of our other
No,
industries?
it's so this is a 5 megawatt data center. So we signed a contract at 5 megawatts. In order for them to grow, they will have above 5 megawatts. They will have to initiate a study with TVA. TVA will have to do a system impact study. Once TVA, which they will have to pay for, once TVA approves that they can grow, then LUS will look at it and will approve whether they can grow or not. So they can't get bigger than what they are right now without going through some steps and going through some studies. So they'll be 5 megawatts. 5 megawatts is about what TFT uses right now.
Okay. So there are companies in town that already use as much power as they will.
Yes, they will not be our biggest customer.
Okay. So the concerns that I think a lot of people have that I've heard is I know that when you buy power, you have to stay within a certain limit to keep it at a certain rate for everyone. And if you go above this limit, just say you use this much power and it stays at this rate, when you get to this rate and above, everybody has to pay more. Is that too simplistic or is that not right?
Yeah, we'll sign a contract with them, so that will limit what they can take. We will set a transformer that will allow them not to take more than that without them going through this study. Now, it's a very good load for us. It is a consistent load. Once they start up and ramp up, they're going to be using consistent power. It, it is a it's a good enough customer for us, and we'll make enough margin on it that our plan is that we make enough money off of this data center that we can put off some rate increases. That this will allow us to fund capital projects and do some stuff within the electric system that we wouldn't have to go to rates and impact the rates because we're
So
making
this isn't
margin
going to
off of them.
directly change the rates for
No,
customers.
your
So it,
your
it
rate
should
is not going up
so
because
it
of
should
the
do
data
the
center.
opposite. It should help the people of Lawrenceburg as opposed to hurting us.
Yeah, that's the plan. Our plan would be to help offset rate
Yeah.
increases, that where we would not have to look at rate increases to do things within our system.
So the couple of years ago when we had the rolling blackouts, this ain't gonna suck up everybody else's power and leave Granny over there in the dark.
No, that was a TV. TVA.
Hey, I'm just
True.
saying, Granny
Yeah,
Granny
right.
can't be cold because the
No.
data center's got to be.
And TVA's been in business 90 years. TVA had rolling blackouts one time.
Yep.
That was a weather event that was unprecedented. They had generation issues. They could not generate enough power. So that's when they called us and said, we have to implement rolling blackouts. That's why they implemented this policy. Anything above 5 megawatts has to do a system impact study. So that's to alleviate them coming in and taking too much power. TVA says, if you're going to grow, you got to pay for a study. We're going to see how it impacts. If it impacts the system negatively, we're going to charge you this amount of money to upgrade the system.
Yep.
So that won't go through you at all. That'll go through
That'll go
them.
through TVA.
Yeah.
So it'll be a study initiated by us through TVA that the data center has to pay for.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's great.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they won't buy their power through TVA. They'll buy it all through you.
Yes, they will buy it through
So
Lawrenceburg
LUS
Utilities.
will. I mean, I think that's great that
Yeah.
y'all will get the profit, which is.
Yeah.
Well,
Which helps us.
I mean, which helps everybody in
Yeah.
Lawrenceburg.
So we buy all of our power from TVA, but 80 cents of every dollar goes back to TVA. So if they pay us $100, we give TVA $80 of that, and we live on that $20 margin.
Yep.
Awesome.
And this data center, their monthly bill is going to run about $400,000 a month. So,
Okay. Wow.
and they'll sign a 5-year contract, and within that 5-year contract, if they shut down and moved, they would pay a minimum bill to us to finish out that 5-year contract.
Mm,
So we put provisions in
Yep.
place to protect LUS and protect our ratepayers.
that is great. Ryan, is this a done deal?
So I remember last summer we were talking a lot about retail, right? That seemed to be the topic of conversation, and I like to say everything's in process pretty much, right? Because until something opens,
Until the building's up?
until the building's up and it starts operating, in
Until
this.
we make that transformer hot and they
That's
start getting
right.
balance.
That's right. That's right. Um, in this case, I'd rather answer that question by telling you where we are in the process,
Okay,
right?
where are we in the process?
So, great question. The land has been purchased. It has been appropriately rezoned. That happened earlier this year in January, as when the city council finalized the new zoning, which is light industrial. And where they're in the process now is they are designing the building, and will soon be issued a building permit. They will move dirt, build a building, and do that. And that will probably take a year from the time they start moving dirt until they operate, is what our estimation is. And so, is it a done deal? We are well into the process. Um, and to that end, I commend my friends for signing a petition. I think it's so important to be involved in everything like this. Um, Effectually, the public process is done, and because there were no public incentives or any public land given, there's only one process, and that was the rezoning, right? So, um,
Yeah, we're going to talk about that here in a
yeah,
second.
sure, sure,
Yeah.
but that was kind of that's where we
And
sit.
yeah, and people want to know, is there anything they can do to stop this from happening?
Not likely.
Okay. Not likely.
Yeah,
Um, well,
barring something criminal.
let's
I
hope
mean,
that
just
it don't get there.
no. I hope it doesn't either. I mean,
Can
it's
we prevent more of them from coming here?
um. I mean, there's a case right now going through where a city council, I can't remember the state or the city, but they've put a moratorium or ban on them and on data centers generally. I'm wanting to say it was, don't hold me to it, a Google data center, and Google is taking them to court because they've already gone through a lot of the process, and they're trying to hold it up, and I think Google's going to win, right? So I know that's somewhere else far off and very vague, but locally, I think the better question is like, how many do we want, or how many would we need? And I think the question really needs to be, where do we sit economically, right? Like,
Right.
um, I do think we need more jobs, and I think our focus is going to be on high value employers. But we can never discount anyone. If my job is to build money and grow money in Lawrence County, we can never discount anyone looking to invest here because it has a positive impact. We can never help someone become a good customer for LUS, which is going to help the residents too, because this is all about quality of life, right? And so, sure, maybe we can do something to stop it. Maybe the public can. I don't know that we'd want to, though.
Maybe let one go and see how it works.
Sure,
I don't know. I'm not here to say it's good or bad.
sure.
I'm here to see both
Hmm.
sides. Um, so we were talking about somebody wanted to know why wasn't the public informed earlier.
Sure.
Um, so you were talking about your process
Hmm.
of how this came about and things that went before the city
Yeah.
council. Um, so I have the agendas for the city council,
Hmm.
and basically, when it went before the city council, they were basically land rezoning issues,
Yeah.
um, where the trust came through and the land was sold, but there's never anything mentioned about data
Right.
centers. And so, on either of the readings, it was just land rezoning. So, and where is it that the public was made known
Sure.
about a data center coming? And, I was talking to my father earlier, and he's like, if somebody just said there was a data center coming, a lot of people would just be like, a data center, what's
Right.
what's that? And it's not until obviously somebody gets on the bandwagon and starts talking about them.
Right.
But and then when somebody finds out that it's not great, then so other than these going through the city council, where would one hear about this?
So I'm number one. I'm not representing the city here. I'm a citizen of the city of Lawrenceburg, and I'll say this: I commend them for what they've done, especially in the planning department over the last year. Um, the Something new they've added to the process was putting signage up on anything that's being annexed, rezoned, or what have you. Um, and so, for example, on this specific piece of property late last year, there was a sign erected on the property that had like, hey, here are the meeting dates when planning commission meets, and here's when the city council meets to consider the rezone of this property from, I think it was residential to industrial, right? What's interesting about that signage, it actually mentioned for a data center on it,
Okay.
and that is far above and beyond what any other city I know of does. So that's important to note that there was a lot of effort by our team down there in planning to make sure that was on there, because we do know, watching it for the last 10 years and then especially the last 3, it's controversial, so they put it on there. And then I think those are the meeting minutes you have in front of you there. Is that,
That's
or
that,
the agenda?
that's the agenda.
Okay.
It's not the minutes.
I do know at the second reading in the January meeting, the general contractor for the company was in town for the final vote, because
Okay.
they thought that was very important to be there. And at that time, there was a public hearing held, and we did talk about that this is being rezoned for the purpose of a data center. So,
Are you
yeah,
saying at the
at
meeting?
the January meeting, yeah, yeah. So, so with that said, all these meetings, every public meeting is noticed in the newspaper. It's online. Meeting minutes are available. Agendas are available, and I think again, zooming out, broader question is, how can people get better involved? And I think it's better understanding the mediums or the medias through which these announcements come. WLX does a great job of noticing
Well,
most public meetings as well.
we video the city council
That's right.
meetings, but all the information that we get is not always public. And so that's why I was wondering where I did see a picture of the sign,
Yeah.
and but the rest of us residents
Yeah.
who don't drive down that road don't necessarily
Yeah.
see that sign.
Yeah.
And I understand the frustration of someone who doesn't I'm in the media and didn't know there was. I mean,
Sure.
I asked you about the data center
Yeah.
a long time ago,
Yeah.
but didn't know any facts
Yeah.
or
Well, you hear people talking about, and the Lawrenceburg rumor mill really is impressive.
it's very
It's very
impressive. It's
impressive.
very
But
impressive.
I'll say this
Yes.
too. Economic development projects have to be confidential for a long time for a number of reasons, right? Whether it's a competitor that may also be trying to enter the market, whether all of a sudden, the land value next door that they may need to expand is going to triple or quadruple in price, which is a threat to the deal, right? So we have to maintain a pretty tight lip, or close to the vest posturing a lot of times, to help get these projects through. This was not one of those, again, because we've talked pretty openly about it from even the process, and what's even funny, we haven't even formally announced this project yet. And so, in my industry, doing an interview like this is actually looked down upon, because we have not formally worked with the company to have an announcement. And I do think that this is an important conversation, though. That's the reason we're talking about it, because we want people to be informed about what is happening or coming to our community, and we also hope they see the benefits of it in our community as well.
So, so someone's asking, why has there not been a town hall?
Sure.
Which I know we went all the way around it, and we were talking about, there was on January 8th.
Mhm.
You said there was a public hearing
Yep.
inside the city council.
Yep.
So it looks like January 8th.
Yep.
There was a call. Was that on the same morning?
Yes.
Supposed to be the hearing?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. I'll have to go back and watch that, because I know we videoed it, but I don't think it was
And
there.
just, I don't mind telling you how that looks in a city council meeting. Is typically they have a slew of business before it gets to all the ordinances that need to be passed, and anything that requires a public hearing that's on the agenda, they will call for that before the ordinances are read by the city attorney.
Uh-huh.
If you go back on the video, or if you one of your audience members watch one of your recordings online, you'll see the city attorney. This is probably Vic 9 times out of 10. He'll say, "Is anyone here for the public meeting on ordinance?" And I think that case 1448, and usually it's crickets.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just how
Very
it goes.
seldom anybody shows
And so the
up.
public hearing, if you go back and watch it and want to see a big, broad discussion, you're not going to see it. Just to be blunt, you're not.
Another thing which people are concerned about is the noise ordinance, not noise ordinance, but the noise pollution that some of these centers give off, which, if it's up in the industrial park, not really close to houses,
Right.
shouldn't be that big of an issue, but
No.
we're not dropping this thing in the middle of a subdivision.
I think people are reading online about data centers needing backup power, and there's two, or probably two or three, and Vic, you speak this better than I can, but 2 or 3 times of backup generation, right? There's diesel, there's battery, there's others.
Which diesel's loud.
Diesel's, it would be loud, right?
We have one here, and it's loud.
Sure.
But there again, they would have to get, if they had a diesel backup generator, that would have to be permitted by TDEC.
Yeah.
They would have to get an air permit.
So, because I mean, I've seen some. I mean, looked at some of those links that
Yeah.
people posted,
Oh,
and
yeah.
those.
Oh,
I mean, the buildings were making people's houses vibrate.
sure.
So
But those are typically the big hyperscalers,
Mhm.
the 100 megawatt. Those are 20.
those are not our five.
No, those are 20 times
Okay,
the
not
size
our
of this
five
one.
kilowatt.
That's not
I
our
mean, I want
five.
to make sure because
Yeah.
um, well, and it's not going to overload our local power grid.
No, about 3 years ago, we put our Markfield substation
Mhm.
online up at Crossroads, and that took a lot of strain off of the Collins substation. So we've got about 50 megawatts of capacity in the Collins substation. They're taking 5 of that.
Okay. Um, well, if they aren't going to take any extra power, if there is any extra uh, power, I mean, obviously they would have to pay for their own
Right. Yeah.
extras.
If we had to upgrade the system, we would do a estimate. We would
Yeah.
take that estimate to them and say you owe this amount of money in the aid to construction. We
Yep.
would charge it to them. If they paid it, we would do the work, upgrade it, and they could grow.
Yep.
That's after they did a study with
Yep.
TVA.
Yeah. And I do think, again, people are reading online in communities that have not done the due diligence or they aren't prepared. You know, the system may be footing the bill for it and then spreading that across their existing ratepayers, which is why people are reading, oh, data center comes to town, rates go up. And that's not, again, that's not true in every case. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, just to be clear. Like it might have happened, probably did happen, but that's not the case in our
So
situation.
one thing if this was a 100 megawatt data center, they would use more power today than what all of Lawrence County did. So on the blue sky today, like today, nice day, we may be using 80 megawatts of power. The most power Lawrence County has ever used is about 132 megawatts. We would not want a 100 megawatt
Right.
data center coming in that would use more power on a daily basis than our whole county did.
Right.
So
Well, I think that that's the main concern is
Mhm.
that, and especially the unknown.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like I was Googling, there we go, I was using a data center, sorry, about this. I think currently Google says we have 61 data centers in
Mhm.
Tennessee. I didn't know there's 5 in Franklin.
Yeah.
And, didn't know about it, didn't know. But it's kind of like you have to have them.
Right.
I personally wouldn't want to live right by one if
Sure.
it was loud, but it's like an interstate. You don't want to live by an interstate, but you got to have one.
Yep.
And so just want to, is it good? Is it bad? I think, how much tax revenue does it generate for Lawrence County, Lawrenceburg? I
Right.
mean, it seems like a
Yeah.
bunch.
Yeah.
Seems
exactly.
like LUS can make money.
Right, we're
That's
making
great
good
for the
money.
city.
Yeah. If you want better roads, better schools, better parks, a more stable, base of electric rates, I mean,
So, what are we actually giving up having a data center here?
I think opponents might say, they're taking the farmland, and I hate that argument, and I also hate that a lot of times there are people that come in and buy and take up farmland, right? And so I think the bigger discussion to be had is about future land use out in the county specifically. In the city, it's different too. So that would probably be the only thing we're giving up if I had to.
There was a similar situation someone brought to my attention about a plant that was brought here in the 70s. And good or bad, I mean,
Yeah.
was it good? Was it bad?
Right.
Different industries, different times.
And
But
they change.
and the change. Nobody likes change.
It's
Very,
hard.
very few people like
Yep.
change. So this, I don't know. I don't know if this changed anyone's mind. I don't know. I think I answered a lot of questions that were brought, but I can only say anyone who wants to know more, get involved more. Make sure you ask more questions. I would say make sure you vote. I would say make sure Ryan's pretty available. Call and ask questions.
Yeah.
Vic's hit or miss. I don't know. I mean,
And every city commission meeting, every county
Yeah.
commission meeting, every LUS board meeting has a public comment period.
Yep.
That you can come in, sign up, and you can get your 3 minutes to talk
Yep.
about anything that's on the agenda
Yep.
or anything in general, you
Yep.
know. You have the opportunity to have a voice
Yeah.
during those public comment periods.
Yeah.
Well, if that's all, anybody have anything?
I would like to just say, I don't want growth happening to us. I want it to happen because of us, and I want to direct it the way that we as Lawrence Countyans want to go, right? Like, we're all three born and raised here. We want to see it stay the same and be the Lawrence County that it's always been, but we also have to look to the future because, you know, I want people to be able to have economic opportunity and have a higher quality of life. And so, with that in mind, it is important to get involved. And I think there's going to be some opportunities in the future to do that. But I do hope everyone at least hears our perspective on it. And if anyone does have any follow up questions, I'll be honest, I don't do Facebook Messenger often, but shoot me an email. It's ryan@lawcotn.com. That's RYAN at LAWCOTN.com, and I do my best to respond to those. I'm glad to sit down, have coffee or whatever. So
Awesome. Vic?
Well, at LUS, we try to be good stewards of our resources, and we look at every project as it comes in. We want growth, but we
Yep.
want thoughtful and sustainable growth.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So it's we take it each project one by one. We don't throw a blanket over it, and we talk through it with Ryan, with the chamber, with our board,
Yep.
with the city. So there are multiple levels that we evaluate everything, and
Yep.
and we make the best decisions that we think will
Yep.
benefit Lawrence County moving forward.
So
Not so corrupt, is it?
depends on what day. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, and it's Lawrence County is beautiful,
Oh yeah.
and the last thing it very few people want to do anything that disrupt your city
Yep.
and disrupt your county, especially ones you live in.
Yeah.
And so just if you got something that bothers you, feel free to talk about it, but just try not to be hurtful, you know. So with that in mind, I just want to thank you guys for being here,
Sure.
Thank you
and
for having us.
and we appreciate you watching. Thanks so much.